sit upon the throne. I bow down and worship you. You are glorious God. You are powerful God.
Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends the part of the world. You I am Mazi Chika Austin, and we are here again to once again to look at what we term the oikonomies. I believe I'm coming loud and clear from your own point, so that we'll move ahead and this issue trashed and discussed once again. Please check if I'm coming loud and clear from your own end, so that we'll move ahead and talk about the issue of oil collapse and the danger the Nigerian state faces. If you're receiving us loud and clear, please help to notify us. Please help to notify us, so that we can speed up and discuss this. If you're receiving us loud, yes, okay. Ebunuju, good morning from here, our sister. Wonderful. Okay, let's talk about oikonomies. We are talking about crude oil, of course, which has been an economic benchmark and economic strength of the Nigerian state. It's important we look at what some persons would not want you to know, what some persons would not want you to hear. I've taken my time to be researching and equally making my projection. I think you will not feel shocked if I tell you that even in the year 2030, the oil price will still be in a very sorry state as we are seeing it now. That does not mean I am a naysayer or but what I'm trying to tell you, I've taken the indices at hand. I have made my extensive research to see where the oil market is moving on, and in fact, what is revealing itself, what is unveiling from those extensive research shows to that fact that the oil market is not going to be better, is not going to recover. Anybody could think. And before that, let me build a foundation to let you know that Nigeria as a country budgeted 2020 budget stood at 10 trillion. That is the budget of 2023, the budget of Nigeria, carefully, because I'm not going to rush. I'm going to take it one upon another so that you can understand you can digest what I'm talking about. You will understand what I'm talking. 20 budgets have estimation of 10.3 trillion. And in that estimated budget amount or budgeted amount, or budgeted expenditure anyway. That particular budget of 10.3 trillion have over 60% of the budgeted revenue where money is expecting over 60% percent of that amount, which is the budgeted revenue, is expected to come from the oil. I am building a foundation so that you understand where we are going to. This is pure economic issues. We are talking about political economy. Nigeria said she wants to spend in 2020 budget 10.3 trillion. And the same country is saying that she is going to assess or source the money to spend this money from the oil. That 60% of the money she's seeking to spend this money is going to come from the oil. And she put the benchmark, what she said she's going to, the 60% estimated to come from the oil, the 60% revenue, which was estimated was going to come from the oil. The oil benchmark was pegged at $57 per barrel. This is a country saying we are going to spend, in 2020, we are going to spend 10.3 trillion. And over 60% of the money we are going to spend of this amount, over 60% of this amount is going to be sourced from our oil product, the product, what we are going to make from the oil sector. And they said, because remember, budget is estimated, budget is futuristic. Don't forget that. And they said, we arrived at this based on, we have concluded within ourselves that we are going to sell our oil at $57 per barrel. And this is a country that pegged her revenue, oil benchmark at 57. Why, as I speak to you, the oil sells below $5. It's just a shock. Realizing that you made a budget, I think I have to simplify this so that we understand where we are going to. You understand the shock, the mighty mess the country is currently. In a simple term, you want to buy a cloth, or you want to buy a phone that costs 40 naira. And you're saying, this phone, I'm going to buy it next week, Monday. And you want to start making plan how to raise the money. And you're saying, okay, if I sell my orange, hopefully, if I sell my orange, I'm going to make 60% of the expected amount to use in buying that phone. And you say, each of my orange, I'm going to sell them in next AK market, which is going to be maybe this week, Wednesday, ahead of Monday buying plan of your phone. It's okay. On Wednesday, I'm going to go to a K market and sell one of my orange at 5 naira. That was an estimated revenue budget you have made. Unfortunately, before that Wednesday, you are told shockingly that the orange you wanted to sell at 5 naira to generate money to buy phone on the Monday is now sold less than 1 naira. You now understand how disorganized. In fact, you need not to be told that your budget for the phone purchase can never be realistic because it's already wrecked by the market reality. And that is exactly, in a simplified way or form, that is exactly the state at which Nigeria is. So that you understand, if you understand this, you will then understand that Nigeria is on autopilot for collapse. because we are going to spend time to break it down for you to understand. In the next 3 weeks, in the next 2 weeks, you will start hearing stories that you've never heard in Nigeria. It's going to be shocking to you. It's going to be, wow to you. You're going to say, but nobody has raised arm, nobody has talk of fight, and the contraption have collapsed. That is all we are going to spend time to discuss at this very moment. So the revenue of Nigeria is in a drastic mess. And the same country, very, very important, I equally break down some things. Now, apart from the collapsed revenue expectation, in budget, when a country plans for budget, or when a country drafts her budget, two things basically comes to mind. Uh, Two things basically comes to mind, and those things that basically comes to mind are what we call capital expenditures and recurrent expenditures. Very, very important you understand this. We are talking about budget. She unveils she unveils her plans for capital expenditure. She unveils her plan for recurrent expenditure. What are the things you find within expenditure? You talk about projects. You talk about projects. Mazi Kenis, if I would say my camera is off, my face is off camera, but I don't think, because um, currently I'm equally viewing the program myself here, so I don't know if anyone is equally experiencing same. You can. You, he said my face is off camera. That is what our brother Mazi Fanyi Kenis is saying. But please, if my face is off camera, you can as well let me know, so that we'll move ahead. Please, somebody can confirm that, so that I move on.
Every sickness out of your life, every sorrow in your marriage, unshakable God will shake it off. Every weakness in your life, every full foundation, unshakable God will shake that foundation from the root in Jesus' name. Unshakable God, unshakable God, unmovable God, reliable God, untouchable God, unmovable God. Hey, Baba, oh, you are
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mazi Kenis. So we'll move ahead. It says okay now. Now, thank you. So you will forgive my slow explanation, because I really want us to understand this. This is this is really, really a very sensitive discussion, so that you don't miss it out. Um, Carefully, please forgive my slow explanation, but I just need to do this. If possible, you take pen and just jot down some stuff, so that you understand where we're going to. This issue we are talking about is not a layman issue. This is issue issues that are going on in this country. This is uh, issues that are already facing the presidency, is already destroying this country, and whether you like it or not, it's going to mess up the whole thing. Nigeria is just collapsing in a very terrible form. It's not an issue you need to intervene. This is an economic issue. You don't need to intervene, with military. It's not military. It's something you just marshal out military on the street. That is not what we're talking. We are talking about an issue that is going to end this country. So I told you earlier, I said, remember, we have talked about the budgeted revenue, we've talked about the budget of the year. Now, I was explaining before Mazi Kenis called my attention. I said in budgets all over the world have two cardinal aims to achieve. One is what we call capital expenditure, and another one is what we call recurrent expenditure. What is capital expenditure? Capital expenditure are those money mapped out from the budget that are aimed for projects, constructions, and other infrastructural development. That's what we call capital budget. And we have what we call recurrent expenditure. What are the recurrent expenditure? Recurrent expenditures are those money you use in debt servicing, you use in salary payment, and other non project execution. And in Nigeria, remember we're talking economic issues, so carefully follow. Nigeria said she budgeted 10.3 trillion for 2020 to spend. And in Nigeria budget, understand, I'm reading from a statistical figure. Nigeria, as I speak to you, have an accumulated personnel cost. Take note, accumulated personnel cost, pensions and gratuities, an accumulated one from 2011 to 2020 that is over 20 trillion. This is a country said that she's going to spend 10.3 trillion for 2020. But as I speak to you, remember 10.3 trillion, sorry, I believe the light will soon fall back. Remember this 10.3 trillion we are talking about. We have in it recurrent expenditure. We also have in it what we call capital expenditure. Maybe you have to give me a few minutes. Let me open the place for good. I think it should be better now. Good. I think it should be better. Sorry, the light is terrible in this part of the world. So what am I trying to say? Now, if you watch the budget of 10.3 trillion, she said she have current expenditure and recurrent expenditure. And we're meant to understand that already pensions, personnel cost, gratuities as accumulated in Nigeria stands at 20 trillion. So you can now understand the level of deficit. That means even though you allocate the 10.3 trillion budgeted for 2020 into recurrent expenditure, it cannot even solve the problem. And the same budget, let's talk about the recurrent expenditure at what it stands. Remember, I told you when you talk about recurrent expenditure, you're talking about the salary payments and what have you. Federal government only have over 400 staff. Federal government only have over 400,000 staff. If you convert that by percent, it stands as 33% of the total budget. What do I mean? If the budget stands at 10.3 trillion and federal government already is going to allocate 33% of that amount to her staff, which she's paying every month. That is what we call recurrent expenditure. And this 33% of the budget is already naturally, automatically allocated for salary payment because you cannot, remember, you cannot owe them, you cannot give them excuse. But one shocking thing about this is possible when the crude oil is, when the crude oil price is at $57 per a barrel. Make no mistake, all these things we are saying are achievable if the crude oil, which is currently less than $5 per barrel, if the crude oil stands at $57 per barrel, that is when we are, all these things we are talking about are feasible, achievable. Now, one shocking thing about the whole thing, or about the whole development, is all this arrangement, all this grammar, all these economic terms and accuracies are pegged at $57 per barrel, which currently dollar, sorry, crude oil sold at less than $5 per barrel. Now let's look at, I have just opened your eye to recurrent expenditure of Nigeria. Now another thing I should point your attention is in that budget of 10.3 trillion, there is a reasonable percent allocated to what we call debt servicing. What is debt servicing? Nigeria is owing huge amount of money to a lot of international donors, financial institutions, and also local debts. There are people locally the country is equally owing, especially contractors who executed contracts and what have you. All those things are piled up debts. And Nigeria is expected to service this debt. How does she service? If it's agreed that, okay, if China, for example, say, okay, this money we are giving to you, every year you give us so amount, you give us maybe 10% of the money, you know, these are conditions. And you cannot default. These are part of the responsibilities. These are part of the essence of the budgeting. And remember, the budget of 10.3 trillion was, I keep on saying this, I keep on reiterating this because it's important, your mind should be anchored on that. All these things were pegged if the crude oil should sell or should be sold at $57 per barrel, which contradicts greatly with the current $5 per barrel we have. So currently, there is a problem because nobody expected the war to fall into where she is today. And what is the problem? The fall of crude oil in the OPEC market. Now, the problem is not the fall of crude oil because if you have been following the oil market, you will understand one thing is certain: it fluctuates, it's not static. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But what is so unique about the present condition of crude oil market or the oil market that drives our interest to make this discussion? What is so unique about it is this. As I speak to you, the crude oil is falling. In fact, some countries, their products are on negation. Good. And what is so important or so shocking about current situation in international oil market, is not because crude oil market, as I said earlier, or oil market, as I said earlier, is have never been static. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. There is no time you say it remains constant. No. But why are we much interested on this? We are much interested on this because what we are seeing today is not going to be arrested or solved within 3 to 4 years. I think that might force you to open your eye. The oil shock we are facing today is not going to be solved within 3 or 4 years interval. It's going to last more than a decade. I'm going to explain, don't be in a haste, why Nigeria is going to be in a big mess. As I speak to you now, the oil is falling and falling totally. Remember, Nigeria production cost for 1 barrel of crude oil stands as $18. For Nigeria to produce one crude oil, she spends $18. And if she produces that crude oil, she sells at market value of $5. So explain to me, how can I produce? How can it take me $18 to produce a product for me to sell it at $5? You see, I'm on negation. I'm already on loss of $14. So automatically Nigeria is knock off market as far as oil market is concerned. Now, can she in normal market behavior, if market dives down, if market nosedives, you can wait and say, okay, in the next 3 months it's going to be better, then I can, manage up. So let me borrow. We are talking about economies here. So when the market nosedives and you feel in the next 3 months it's going to be better, then you can borrow to cushion the responsibilities you're known for. But in this case, why this case is so dangerous and horrifying to the Nigerian state is this. As I speak to you, the oil is gone, collapsed on a zero point, and factories are shut down because workers are in their various homes all over the world. As a result of the workers being in their various homes all over the world, those factories that need those oil to power their machines are shut down all over the world. Factories are shut down. So as a result of the shutdown of the factories, they no longer demand for oil to power those machines because those machines are no longer at work. Now, one shocking thing about this is not just that the factories are shut down. That is not just the shocking. The shocking thing about this is that as I speak to you, countries that are wealthy, who have a reasonable reserve, who have a reasonable savings before the advent of COVID-19. What these countries are doing now, I'm talking about India, I'm talking about United States, I'm talking about China, I'm talking about most European countries. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia. What these countries are doing now, they open their reserve centers. I'm talking about oil where they reserve oil. They go there and start filling their reservoirs to the brim. In United States, as I speak to you, United States government have almost got everywhere filled up because the oil is cheap. All they do is to just say, oh yeah, pump on the tanks. United States government have almost filled to the brim. Do you know what is happening? As this program is going on, United States government have decided to convert their transporting pipelines to reservation pipes. You understand what I mean? Those pipes that are used to transport oil to the refineries, United States government have decided to grant some companies access to those pipelines for them to use those pipelines to even store, because already all the known reservoirs are all filled up. And same is happening in Europe, same is happening in India, same is happening in China. So the implication is this: even when COVID 19 is solved globally, this country will have in excess that even in the next 10 years, they will not be in demand of oil. Now, ask yourself a question. If in the next 10 years, the oil market will still be as volatile, as undemanding as the way it is, tell me how Nigeria, that depends over 60% of our revenue from oil, will survive. It's just a simple question. Because she needs to pay the ministry, she needs to pay the police, she needs to pay the civil servants, public servants. She needs to show some basic responsibilities. So I think you can now picture what the country is going to face in near future. When I talk about near future, I'm talking about few minutes, few days from now. Because these countries have used the opportunity of the cheap oil in the market to get everywhere filled up, to get everywhere stockpiled. And you can now understand how the whole thing is. But I think some persons who are listening to this program might say, okay, don't you think there might be other solutions Nigeria can apply? As far as I'm concerned, Nigeria have four solutions to this. And unfortunately, there are no solutions. As far as I'm concerned, Nigeria can only apply, you know, four approaches, not solution. They are not solution because we are going to discuss them and you will see they are not going to be solutions. Five approaches left for them to adopt. One is what we call spending costs. I'm going to analyze to details. Two is asset sales. Three is taking on new debt. And the four, which is total lockdown to oil wells. I'm going to explain to you. Only four options standing naked before the Nigerian state. One, either she cuts her spending, which is downsizing. She has to review, as in sack a lot of civil servants. Sack, if possible, shut down the National Assembly. Run a one unitary system, close down the idea of states government and allocation. Shut down all those things. Or she starts selling her assets, which I'm going to explain all these things to details. Or she starts borrowing. We are going to talk about it also. Or which is total lock down the country, collapse the country, say nothing worse again, to your tent, all Israel, lockdown. Now, let's look at the first option. The first option is spending costs, which is right-sizing, downsizing, sacking a lot of people, reviewing salary structure, and all this. The truth is this: as it stands now, can cutting expenditures be the ideal thing for Nigeria? Yes, it will be an ideal thing, economically speaking. But looking at the social composition of this country and the social psychological disposition of every individual in Nigeria, any the government thinks of expenditure costs, believe you me, there will be uprising. Expenditure costs implies she has to relieve a lot of police officers. Then those that will remain, their salaries will be reviewed, hopefully slashed to 50% or 30%. The military, also, a lot of military officers have to go. Those who will be on duty, their salaries ought to be reviewed. I'm not saying I'm telling you what is facing them now. These are options. Another option can be to shut down the National Assembly. The legislators should go. But if you do this and other expenditure costs, remember these guys you're going to disengage, they are not patriotic and they believe you, the executive, the presidency, the so-called presidency that is going to disengage them, are not disengaging them on patriotic ground. That is what they are going to think. So in so doing, they are going to, if you disengage them, if you sack them from work because you want to save the country, want to keep the country moving, they are going to form a clique and raise uprising against the government. And the government understands this. Yes, they understand it. So that's why that part is a dangerous one to go. Another thing the government might decide to do is to be owing up to 3 months' salaries, which is equally dangerous because it's going to equally set up uprising. You can understand the option of spending costs that is not really going to work. So if you watch, although Nigeria government is on it already, but on a technical way, one of the ways you know if Nigeria is applying spending costs, if you watch what is happening in Kano today, she's trying to be so careful on how to go over her sluggish action. What is happening in Kano and all over the nation, talking about the COVID-19 stuff, if you find out, if you observe, you will discover that there are no isolation centers, well furnished isolation centers, because there is no money. The government cannot sell herself and turn to money. So what they are trying to, unfortunately, it could have been better for them if there's nothing like COVID-19. But the coming of COVID-19, which calls for quick response monetarily, which they don't have to spend, is now exposing them more. So let's talk about asset sales. Another thing Nigeria can do to save herself from this is to start selling her assets, start mortgaging the airports, assets like the oil wells, selling those oil wells, selling her structures. But can that be possible now? Unfortunately, those who would have been the buyers are careful in expenditures. Shell, name them any, ExxonMobil, and all the rest of them are no longer interested in investing. If you place the oil wells for sale, if you place the airports for sale, those who ought to have come in and buy these assets are not going to be interested because already the market is a bad one. You understand? Already the market is a bad one. And that's exactly what is playing out. Because if you place anything for sale now, nobody will be interested. Financial institutions are not over the world because no business is moving on. So on the asset sale, you find out it's not going to be possible because buyers are not interested now. So you understand why that one. And if you talk about debt, taking of new debt, the truth is that Nigeria have reached Bretton Woods institution limit of debt taking, which is 30% of your GDP. That is, I think, the Bretton Woods institution, IMF and World Bank benchmark that you should not take loan exceeding 30% of your GDP, which Nigeria is already above it. So she is no longer ripe for loan taking. So you cannot say she's going to be taking loan to be cushioning this deficit and the first. So you understand already she's in a big mess. And besides, people give a country that is viable loan. You give a country you know that she's going to pay. In Nigeria case, she's not going to pay because the oil which contributes over 60% of her revenue is already deflated. Another way you might think she can service her debt is on VAT. You know, she has, I think, 7.5% VAT. But the truth is, how would government generate reasonable amount of money from VAT when companies are already on lockdown in Nigeria, when workers are not going to work? So you understand the whole thing is really, really not speaking well for her. Because through that, she can generate some money and keep going. But that is not going to be possible because people are sitting at their various homes. So on debt taking, no country will be interested to still loan her anything because already she is a bad debtor. And if she say, okay, let's she lock down the country, which I think that is an inevitable ground she's going to move into. You don't need to argue much on this. Having seen collapse revenue is a simple thing. If a man job ends, which is the source of his income, and he cannot run the family, what do you expect? The family will collapse naturally. And that is exactly what is going to play out in Nigeria. So the whole system is getting dangerous every day. But unfortunately, the media in Nigeria is not opening the eyes of Nigerians to this reality. They are not building up consciousness. Let me tell you one secret. Are you aware that many governors are requesting to travel out? Many politicians are begging the federal government to allow them to fly out. Why do they want to fly out? Because most of them know they cannot withstand what is to come. No revenue. The federal government have told the state that June allocation is not possible. And tell me how a governor will be in a state on a zero allocation. What that simply means, she can't run the security of the state. She cannot be in charge of the state. And that's why every one of them is trying to seek a way to escape on time over what is to come. Every one of them is asking to be allowed to fly out, despite the ravaging height of COVID-19 in Europe, in America and other parts of the world. They want to run. They want to run. They prefer to remain there than to see what is to come because they know danger is looming. And of course, there is this signal central bank secretly sent to all the banks in the zoo not to be cashing out money to people. Yes, not to be giving out money to the people. Because there is a plan to see if at extreme point they can confiscate people's wealth just to run the government. Because they understand that danger looms. If you listen to, I think one of the ministers was speaking, he said, people should just come in. People should just intervene by helping the government on palliatives, the stimulus packages, that people should come in and come out because the government does not have money. Remember, She's not selling her oil. The ones on the oceans have been turned back. And oil companies are forced to start shutting down the oil wells, which I think is another, is very, very important to equally let you know that after 10 years, if Nigeria decides to drill, which I don't think she will be existing by then, which I know, she will have the responsibility to start servicing the wells. Because one thing with these oil wells, when they are shut down, they sit. So you need to equally have a renewal application of different bodies to their feet. So you can understand the danger this country is going to face. So when people tell you this country is not futuristic, you should understand it. You should understand it. What we are talking about is not somebody picking up arms. The we are talking about an inevitable ground this country is going to land. That is it. So you have understand what we are talking about. What we are talking about is not going to be solution it's not something that is going to stop in the next 10 years, because the Western countries are busy. As I speak to you, they are busy stockpiling oils. They are busy turning their reservoirs into oil storage ground. They are filling everywhere. They are storing all the facilities known to them, to the extent that some of them have finished filling up the facilities. They are now using transporting pipes to store. They are using pipes that usually send oil to the refineries to even store. So you can now understand. But the question somebody should ask is this: can't Nigeria equally store? She cannot store. Do you know why she cannot store? You store with your reserve. Nigeria depends on oil. She sells her oil to survive. She does not have a reasonable reserve. I'm talking about savings. So what will she? And unfortunately, within this time, there was no time these Fulanis who are ruling this country had in mind to build reserve areas. They never. Because they are short-sighted. Because they are short-sighted. And behold, everyone is now shockingly being confronted with a reality. That is just the way it is. So if anybody tells you that in the next 5 years it's going to be over, that is a pure lie. If all these countries finish their storage, they will not demand. They will not demand. They will not demand. Yes, they will not place demand. So if they don't place demand, the oil market will still be as poor as it is today. So finally, because all we are saying is how it's going to help towards the restoration of the Biafran state. That is the whole essence of this time investment, I mean to say. That is the whole essence of the program. That is the whole essence of all we are discussing. How is going to help Biafra restoration when your captor is no longer, it's easy for you to walk away without him backing. I think you should understand what I mean. When one who is holding you hostage turns out incapacitated, you can easily walk rising to question your exit. And that is exactly the point at which we are heading to. Because Nigeria in the next few weeks is going to arrive at a point that it's going to be disaster. Disaster. That people will not be talking about who left Nigeria or who did not. People will be talking about how do they survive. And you know what that means? We are getting a point that the federal government, those controlling the presidency, will be thinking of, can they survive the people uprising? Not even thinking about whether you have voted out of Nigeria or not as a Biafra. That will no longer preoccupy their mind. Just the way, as I speak to you, what is preoccupying their mind is how do they raise money to pay salaries? That's what is preoccupying their minds. The state governors are thinking currently not COVID 19. COVID 19 is by the way. If you see Anambra State governor, for instance, he opened Anambra State. Why? Because Anambra State needs to generate IGR. That's why he opened it. Not for anything. Because they have been told not to expect allocation. Oil is not selling. So discretionally, why Willie Obiano did is to source money for the running of government internally. He understands that Anambarians are traders. So all he suggested was open the environment so that traders will come in. At least he can generate IGR through revenue. Those things people will be paying, those few money they will be paying from their market areas, at least when gathered, can sustain the state. You can now appreciate. And that is what almost all the governors are going to do. And ask yourself a question. If Anambra can survive via market opening, and revenue sourcing from her people, how will a state like Zamfara survive? So you now appreciate what is to come. You can now appreciate what is to come. So alarming. It's getting bad, bad, and bad every day. And the contraption is not getting it, funny. Because they never prepared for a time like this. The oil is useless. Companies are shutting down the wells in Biafra land. They are shutting down the wells and they are relieving oil workers. You have to go. If your service is not needed, so you have to leave. And that is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is playing out. So that is the point where this country is. And it's not going to be solved today, nor tomorrow, or even next tomorrow. So what are we trying to say? If a country like Nigeria could not have foreseen today, a country like Nigeria didn't plan for a day like this, now you can now appreciate the art of God in everything that happens within the realm of men, because already she has collapsed. I think we must equally know that what collapsed USSR is a situation like this. Remember, for those of us who are close to history, you understand that immediately the economy of USSR was heated by the Western Front. she naturally died out. Despite her military prowess, despite her military expansion, despite what she had in arsenal, being a nuclear possessor, she collapsed naturally because the vital segment of her was touched. And what was that? Her economy. Economy of every nation is her life wire. Now the Nigerian economy is badly heated. Believe you me, she will collapse naturally, like the defunct USSR. Is an inevitable thing. You don't need a prophet to tell you. The economy is bad. People will delink from the union. People will get out of the union. You can now understand what we're talking about. So we must be watchful. We must be tactical. And above all, we must be sensitive because at this very moment, we can't survive. We can survive as a people. I'm talking about the Biafran race. I'm talking about the Biafran people. How can we survive? Or why are we surviving? We are surviving because they, without knowing that a day like today will arise, they unconsciously to them, they force us to master the act of depending not on the government source of survivalhood. They never knew they did well to us. We are not fed with God. We learned and master the act of private sector driven economy. That was what we developed ourselves into as a result of the exclusion and all forms of policies targeted at us. We consciously learned how to depend without government. And if the government collapses, it has nothing to do with us. If it goes up, it has nothing to do with us because we have taken a mastery. We have taken a deep knowledge and skill on how to live without government. And that's why if you watch the whole scenario, the whole development, it looks the Biafran people are not badly heated because the rest of Nigeria have a strong connectivity with the Nigerian government. The rest of Nigerians outside the Biafran people are so interconnected with Nigeria government that if anything happens to Nigeria government, it invariably happens to them. If the government gets broke, they get broke. If the government collapse, they collapse. But in our own case, based on what the hand they use in handling us, we developed, we built up in us the act of surviving, living without government. So whether oil or no oil, we are rolling. You can understand why Anambra State government quickly opened her doors because she needed to source as that resources. That is all we have to discuss, and I believe in subsequent time we'll be coming up and be analyzing, talking about it until finally the contraption gives way for the progressive people of Biafra. So from here, I want to thank every one of us who joined, and I appreciate your time and your commitment. And above all, we must stay safe. Very, very important. From here, I say bye.
I prophesy into your life. Unshakable God will shake off every sickness out of your life, every sorrow in your marriage. unshakable.